All right.
So I gotta run that table.
All right, so let's get we'll get after it here. All right, so this evening my podcast is with Chris McFarland and Phil Casey. Is that correct? That's the right names, guys?
That's right.
And Chris, I've went to school with since high school. So these guys own Frankfort Spirits in Frankfort. It's right in CD and Me. Is that what? That's where
That's
it's
the
at?
location.
That's the location. And you guys, you said that we were chit chatting before the podcast. You're open to the public there on Sundays.
Yep, we're open on Sundays. We do tours on Sundays, 3 tours a day, noon, 1:30, and 3.
So now, when you do a tour, what's involved? I mean, is it a regular tour of like the distillery sort of thing, where it's?
Yeah, what we do is we start off with get to our tasting room,
Yep.
and then you'll try. Normally, we start with a sample cocktail, show people how we could utilize our spirits in a fun cocktail. Get people going, and then we talk about the history of how we got started. We have Jackie, who does a lot of our tours with us so she does a lot of that front end work of the storytelling, how we got started, the history of how we tie in Frankfort, being that we grew up in Frankfort. A lot of it, we pull in a lot of the history from the late 1800s all the way to present day into our story, and go through some of our spirits. We taste each one of our spirits, and then we walk over to the distillery. We show them the distillation equipment, how whiskey gets made, how our spirits get made, and then it goes back to the tasting table, and they try a few more things. And
Good. Well,
usually takes about an hour for them to get through that situation, and they have
Okay,
real
well,
good
I
time
want to
with
hear.
that. Some good
I want to hear some of the story for sure, and then but let's back up and be like, how did you guys meet, and how did you get? I mean, we're not 20-year-old guys,
That's
so
right.
I mean, how did you decide? What were you doing before this, both of you, before the spirits game?
So I'm a graphic designer, and still currently am. So doing that, and Phil and I met through mutual friends, which he'll get into. But once Phil and I met, we started talking about packaging and design, and those are the aspects that I bring to it. But he kind of needed a butcher, a baker, and a candlestick maker, so he assembled a group. I was one of those fellas, and I let Phil talk a little bit about how all that happened, because he was the brainchild behind the operation.
Yeah, so we got this idea got hatched probably 20-some years ago when my kids were little.
Oh wow.
My wife worked retail.
Okay.
And that means she was gone every weekend. I'm a lawyer by trade, so I have my own practice, busy schedule. But she was gone on the weekends, and that left me with the kids, and no one would hang out with me. So I started brewing beer. And
There you go.
once I started brewing beer, we had some friends starting to come over. My brother came over, and I got my built-in help on the weekends when she was working.
Right.
Fast forward to going about another 15 or so years, kids are leaving the house, looking to see, what's my next thing going to be. My
Right.
golf game, I love it, but I'm not good.
No.
So we thought about opening up a brewery, the microbrewery. Talked to my brother about that, and we looked around. There's a lot of good microbreweries in the area now.
Sure, lots of
And
restaurants that got them in there and stuff like
absolutely. So at the time we started thinking about this, there were 10,000 microbreweries in the United States, and it was growing by 1,000 a year.
that too. Wow.
And so we knew we could make some good beer, but we didn't know if, whether or not we could stand out. We're not 20-year-old hipsters.
Right.
So I was down in Kentucky for a conference. That conference was at Woodford Reserve Distillery. Saw what they were doing was brewing beer and then distilling it, basically. So I got back and I talked to my brother Dan and said, hey, listen, we're not going to do a brewery. Let's go ahead and do a distillery.
Yeah.
How hard can it be? It took about a year and several bottles of Jameson to convince him that it was a good idea.
Yeah, good. It's a good plan.
And then, so he's in production. That's what he does for a living. He is in manufacturing. And like I said, I'm a lawyer, so I didn't have the full skill set that we needed. So brought in a guy that does a lot of IT work, Jack King.
Jack.
And then
Yeah.
Jack was the guy that hooked us up with Chris for his creativity and his artistic design. So, there's a lot of superhero movies out there right now, and this is kind of like my superhero group that we put together to kick off and form this distillery.
No, that's a good story. I mean, I'd like to hear a bunch of guys that come together and get the Magnificent Seven sort of a deal, right? With the knife thrower, the gunslinger. So I want to talk about, I think that the general public, and you guys would know better than me, doesn't know the difference between bourbon and whiskey, like scotch, what's so I mean, I personally like whiskey. I like to drink whiskey. I feel like it's a more of a grown-up drink than just drinking, beer. And I certainly don't hardly ever, unless if I'm at someone's house, I'm not, like a snob, but I don't drink Bud Light or Miller Light or it's Guinnesses or something that's a decent. I don't drink that much beer, so if I'm going to have a beer, I'd like it to taste good. And I've had whiskey growing up as a kid, and it was awful. I don't care for Jack Daniels at all. I don't know, what the difference is between any of that stuff. But I've had whiskey that was good sipping whiskey, and it's outstanding. It's almost a little bit of an acquired taste, but once I started drinking it, I prefer that. I get a glass with some ice and fill it up, and then that's my cocktail for the whole afternoon. Pretty much is I don't know. It's probably 5 or 6 shots of whiskey in there, but
So that's the funny thing is, you'll be able to taste some of our spirits today, but when Phil and I sat down, when we first started sitting down, the one thing that we wanted to do, if anything ever happens, we want to make sure that we make stuff that we like in case of one day that we might have a lot of it left. We want to be able to have it so that something that we really enjoy. And I'll tell you, every single one of our spirits, I'm always surprised. And I'm not I haven't been a whiskey guy for 20 years. It's more a little bit since before the distillery, and now how much I've learned from being involved in the distillery. But it is amazing. And a lot of my friends now, they've moved. It's funny, within the 5 years that we've been doing this, all my buddies are like, we're into whiskey, we're into bourbon, we're into scotch. They try. It's really grown, kind of so how the breweries have grown, now the distilleries have really grown.
Yeah, what you've seen in probably the last 10 years is a move away from mass-produced anything, mass-produced beer, mass-produced spirits, and people are wanting something that's a little bit more special.
Sure.
They enjoy the story behind it, but the product's got to be good to back up the story.
Absolutely. I think for anything that's craft made has got to be. You've got to
gotta
really
nail
dig
it.
Yeah. Because I think there's a certain distrust of something that's new until they get into it. I mean, I had a wrestling coach buddy that made some whiskey, and I was like, I don't know, and I started drinking it. It's one of my absolute favorite things to drink for sure. But had to give it that chance to begin with.
And that's what it was kind of funny too, because we won an award for the packaging, and I do the packaging. But fortunately, about 6 months after we won awards for packaging, we did win awards for our double barrel bourbon and our Verdict vodka. So it was kind of oh, good, we're not a pretty face. We have the contents to back it up and the awards to back it up. So it's been it's not just us that like it. We've been recognized by a couple of our associations that we're in that really have shown that we're doing it right as well.
So now, is there a big festival or something, or is there
Plenty.
something and you just go? Do you enter into them, or do you go to them? And
we enter, and the Illinois Craft Distillers Association is one, and then the American Craft Distillers, right, Phil?
Yeah, the American Distillers Institute, the American Craft Spirits Association are two of the biggest.
Those were the national awards that we did.
And then we do have an Illinois
chapter that we belong to.
That's correct.
Okay. And then what kind of numbers are out there? Because I mean, as distilleries go, I don't see a ton of those. There are
right now,
tons and tons of microbreweries.
This shows the list. If you could imagine all the breweries that we have, what does it say? 20 distilleries in Illinois right now. So it's all over. There's a cluster up in Chicago, but go all the way down to Southern Illinois, St. Louis area, and up in Galena. Blom Brothers is up there. So it's not like all the breweries, but they're getting there.
That list is pretty current. When we got our license, we were the 15th license in the state of Illinois.
In the history of Illinois.
Oh, wow.
15th of anything in the history.
I mean, I've been in business since, I opened up my first construction company at 23. That's a great business model right there. Holy cow. To have, this state's got millions of people in it, and that only have that many. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Now there's
awesome.
been some new ones that have joined or have gotten licensed since then. They're not necessarily in production yet.
Right.
And then there have been some distilleries that have gone by the wayside since the start.
Sure.
Just like breweries. Some come and go.
Right.
And that was the interesting thing about what Phil saw when he was getting into the brewery versus distillery thing. The barriers of entry to get into a distillery are much higher than to get into a brewery. So a lot more local, state, and federal licensing that you need to get. We talked to people. We walked into Joliet, and we told them we wanted to put a distillery in unincorporated Will County. They're like, "Yeah, we've never done that before," so
right.
we need to figure this out. And
Sure.
we were able to help them, and they were able to help us. And Dean Vondry over at CDME, where we're located, has a really good relationship with the people in Will County, that he's had a really established business over there. So that was part of the story too, is how we get housed, or where we actually put this distillery was part of our story as well. And Chuck and Dean over at CDME, it seemed to be a real good fit to go there. That's a venue where they have concerts on Thursday night.
It's an awesome venue. It is.
So to be there and to have the synergies from their events, get some exposure from the people that walk through the door there. And our brand seems to have that same feel as what their feel is, a little rustic.
Right, so I mean, they're selling your brand then
Yeah.
all the time. Like Thursday nights when they have their concerts and stuff in the summer, they're selling Frankfort Spirit
got
stuff
it,
all
yeah.
the time. Right.
Yeah, they have it. Yep.
Yeah. That's terrific. Now, I mean, so what is it like? What did you bring today? What do
Chris,
we
you
got?
want to go ahead and go through it?
Sure. So the first thing we brought is our only spirit on the table that doesn't need to be aged. So when we're talking about the production side of things, we could turn around Verdict Vodka in about 10 days, opposed to something that might need to sit in a barrel for 6 months to 8 years.
Sure.
So the production on those is a longer time frame. So the Verdict Vodka, Bill, if you, I have a feeling you might have experienced this. They used to have court in CD&Me. Have you ever had to pay a traffic violation?
Yeah.
had a feeling you might have had to do it.
Actually, I was in there for my girlfriend that she got. She was headed to my place and was going through a construction site, and she had like a $450 ticket.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to take off work that day, so I went in there and figured send the guy in the wheelchair and maybe they'll be a little bit,
jeez.
Yeah.
a little bit lenient on her, but no, they weren't.
Hence
So-
the name Verdict Vodka,
you go.
under the same roof as now former courthouse. That I think we might have been the straw that broke the camel's back on that one.
It is an odd place to have a courthouse.
An
Right? I mean,
yeah.
somebody's in there for a DUI and it's
There's a bar.
There's a
Yeah,
bar.
it's insane.
So it was comical.
Yeah.
I mean, Phil, like you said, is a lawyer by trade, but when we came up with this Verdict Vodka, it was, when that name hit, it was like, all right, yeah, we're on to something. So you be the judge is what our tagline is.
Yeah,
so when you
nice.
taste it, if you want to taste a little sample, I've got one.
Oh, that's
poured.
it right there.
Well, that sounds like a good idea, Chris.
Wow, look at that. So as we say at the distillery, raise
Raise
your
your
spirits.
spirits.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, raise your spirits, and you can taste it. This is an all-corn vodka.
Wow, that's
All that
That
corn is grown in Illinois, so it's grown in Illinois, distilled in Illinois,
See,
and
that's
just
insane.
right now consumed in Illinois.
Yep, 7 times distilled, 3 times filtered. So we have the still on premise. We have
Now, how is
our
that
filtration
okay,
done.
Right? How is this? Because I mean, I drink a lot of vodka, and I mean, I even like the flavored like blueberry and all that other stuff
Okay.
vodka. There is always a way harsher. This is super smooth. I mean,
That's what we take our pride in, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we could make more, but that's not what we're about.
you guys are going to create alcoholics. This stuff. This is insane. Like you could.
It's a nice sipping vodka.
Yes, you
that you
could
don't
just-
have to add anything
Right,
else.
right. There, I know there's all kinds of people out there that have drank vodka and it was like, whoa, take that shot and get it down as fast as possible. You could just drink this. This
Chill it
outstanding.
and drink it.
Yeah.
So being that it's distilled 7 times, what we're shooting for is, when you say 100% alcohol, that's 200 proof. By the time we do our finishing run, we're in the high 190s, 198 as far as a proof goes. So lab grade is 200 proof.
Yeah.
We're almost right there. And then what we do is we proof it down a little bit, and then we have a tower in the distillery, and it's got about a 4-foot stainless steel tube, and we pack that full of a charcoal mixture that we do. And then we pump it up there, let it drain for a day. We call it Will County's largest Brita filter. And we pump that up and let that in 3 days of filtration.
Right.
And that just softens all the edges on it as well. It's not only being very well distilled, very well filtered, and this is 87 proof. So normally you'll see spirits that are 80 proof, and for a vodka to be 87 proof and you're still not getting that burn, it's
nothing. I mean, I
something.
seriously could be barbecuing, put a glass of that with some ice in it out on the deck, and just drink that and be probably stoned out of my mind because it's too easy to go there.
Yeah, it's good.
It's really
but we
easy.
do recommend you drink our spirits responsibly.
Yes.
And our tagline is raise your spirits. Well, raise them responsibly.
We put it on the back of every bottle.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
But it is. It's not just us saying it. That's won 2 national awards.
Yeah,
so
it's
we
outstanding.
I think we hit that one out of the park.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, when I drink vodka, it's Grey Goose. It's it's Kettle One.
Yeah.
It's expensive vodka, and this is better.
Thank you.
I mean, it's I'm not
Right.
I have no they're not paying me to say any of this stuff, but that's really good.
That's
I'm
good.
surprised.
But you're not paying us to be here either,
No,
so I don't
no,
know
no.
what the hell.
Right.
No one's making any money around this place.
No. This is totally for free and for kids.
But you get to drink a little
yes,
bit
yeah,
today,
no,
right?
I
You're
have
going
a
to
couple
have
cocktails, that's
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, no, that's.
And I'm going to go
Bravo,
from
that's outstanding.
what I'd like you to try next is our aged whiskey. And this is also, the funny thing is, the Verdict vodka is all corn. This is an all corn whiskey. But when I said, well, we distill that very, very well to the point where you just want a pure spirit, we don't distill this and strip out all the flavor.
Okay.
So we, get it 135?
It's going to get distilled to about 150 proof. And then once it's been distilled, it gets proofed down and put in a barrel and aged. That particular whiskey, Bill, has actually been aged in a once-used bourbon barrel. So that's been aged for 5 years.
It's a little bit lighter in color. So some of that color came off in that first barrel to the spirits that we use. Normally we save our bourbon or our barrels for bourbon because you have to use a brand new barrel for bourbon. Try saying that. By the end of the night, I won't be able to say.
Right. Yeah.
Brand new bourbon barrel for bourbon. Yeah. So once used, corn whiskey, but they weren't 53-gallon barrels. They were...
No, that was 53 gallon.
This was the 53 gallon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So-
now I don't want to go too fast because
Yeah.
most people probably think that vodka is from potatoes. That's what I go.
There you could any kind of grain. Yeah, so there are a lot of popular vodkas out there from potatoes.
Okay, so
that's what
these are both from corn.
Yeah.
What makes this vodka and what makes that whiskey then?
So a couple things. One, that vodka's been proofed to 195 and plus, right? So you're stripping out flavors and you're
Okay.
just getting alcohol.
Right.
The whiskeys, on the other hand, are being, we use a different types of yeast to ferment it, and then we're proofing it or distilling it at lower proofs.
Okay.
Then we're barrel aging it. So we're not stripping out the flavors, as Chris said earlier. We're trying to preserve that good corn flavor in that whiskey. So what you're looking at then is we call this kind of like our gateway drug, if you will, because this is a really easy sipping whiskey. It's 80 proof. It's not overproofed. It's just a really nice whiskey. It's a little more light or delicate than probably some others.
Let's take a sip, and then we'll talk more about that.
Prost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Nice mellow finish on that.
that again. A glass of ice and this would be outstanding.
That so it was aged in the barrel. So we talk about, like, everybody hears about moonshine. It comes right off the still. It could be a corn spirit, comes off, and it might burn a little bit. And that because it hasn't been aged, it's clear. So you see all these moonshines that come
white
out.
lightning.
White
Right,
lightning.
right.
It's clear as the vodka.
Yeah.
And they're getting it right onto the shelf because they didn't do any aging process.
Sure.
Where, 3 years in a barrel, it holds us up a little while, but the flavor is going to be a lot better than something that hasn't been aged.
Yeah, that barrel's going to give it some mellowness that you wouldn't get in a white lightning.
Right. And I mean, I like I drink whiskey, so like if I was both of them are outstanding, and the vodka's way easier to drink for like someone who doesn't drink whiskey or vodka. But I would prefer the whiskey to drink. That flavor for me is like, but I think it's the same as like, someone who doesn't, if I gave my kids coffee, they'd be like, whoa. But maybe 5 years from now, they would dig the coffee flavor.
Yeah.
I dig the whiskey flavor, and this is really, really good.
Yeah, I think as you get older, your palates change, and you'll find a lot more men, let's say mature men, as ourselves, that seem to enjoy the whiskeys more than... Well, even now the younger guys are getting into it more and more. You see them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Chris. I mean, what we're seeing is that you've got those folks that were drinking the mass-produced beer move to the craft beer, and now as that generation gets a little bit older, now they're starting to move on to craft spirits. And so what we're seeing is the biggest influx for us over the last couple of years are women that are enjoying whiskeys.
Oh yeah, I got a friend that's a huge bourbon freak. She's just all over bourbon all the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think she's got a favorite, but it's definitely probably a mass-produced one where you guys would probably knock her socks off with what you guys got. But I mean, the only reason that I think I would like to stick with the whiskey for me, like as my drink of choice is just having that vodka. That would be it's
too easy to drink.
It's way too. It really is. No, I mean, and if you wanted to put something in there that even like a little lemon
A
or
splash of something.
Oh yeah, you would be completely just tasting the lemon for sure. That's almost tasteless. Now the moonshine stuff or white lightning, that's 100% grain alcohol, right? That stuff's dangerous, right?
It could be grains. It could you can make white lightning out of anything that has sugar in it.
Okay.
So just so you know, and the same holds true for vodka. You asked us about potatoes before.
Yeah.
If there's sugar in it, you can make vodka out of it.
Right.
All right. So corn, wheat, barley, all those things have some sugar. So do apples. So you can make.
That's why you get all the harsh cider and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anything that produces a sugar, and you can add a yeast to it and ferment it, you're going to get that alcohol byproduct. And that's what we teach people when we do our tours as well, is the first step of making a whiskey is actually making a distiller's beer. We're just holding back the hops. So you're fermenting, whether it's corn, wheat, barley, rye, any combination of that or any of those grains, getting that grain, cracking it down, cooking it to release those sugars, adding yeast, fermenting it. Now you drain off the liquid, and then that's when you put it into a still, and that's when you start to cook it. The thing that you have, though, is first batch of beer is only 5 to 8%.
Okay.
So you're only yielding 5 or 8% of that wash. So you're getting the spirit off of there. And that's why a bottle of whiskey is a lot more than a bottle of beer, is because you're only getting such a fraction of that beer.
Sure.
Everything that's water stays behind, and you're just, alcohol start to evaporate in the low 170s. So, and water won't evaporate until the 200s. So we're boiling the alcohol off, condensing it back on the back end, and leaving all that water behind.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing that I enjoy about drinking whiskey or vodka is less trips to the bathroom. I mean, if you're a beer drinker, you're in the john constantly. The whiskey, you can have a pretty square amount of whiskey and not hit the john.
So Chris is pouring our Emo Simple Rye whiskey right now. And Bill, one thing you notice is that there's just a little bit drop of water in the cup before we pour the whiskey, and we do that for a reason. The whiskey tasters at the big distilleries normally proof their spirits down to like 30 proof, and they do that so they can taste the spirit and not get the heat from the alcohol.
That makes sense.
So what we're doing by adding just a little bit of water to this, it's opening up the flavors of the rye. Now what's special about this rye whiskey, and we're really stoked about it, is yes, it's made from rye, and think of the difference between rye toast and wheat toast, okay? Mm-hmm. Or cornbread. So rye's going to be a little bit more peppery or spicy. So you get the spiciness of rye, but we finished this rye whiskey in a bourbon barrel. And bourbon tends to be a little bit sweeter. So you're going to get the spiciness of the rye with just a hint of sweetness from the bourbon barrel. We can do that because we're just a small batch distillery. We're not trying to mass produce stuff. So we're trying to do things to make a special spirit. Not if you just wanted Jack Daniels, go get a Jack Daniels.
Oh yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right. When you're 19, 20, before you're supposed to be drinking, but when you're a young guy and you're drinking whiskey, it's in a shot glass, pour it, and you slam it down. Yeah. And it's gone. I did not realize till I was in my 30s what a waste that is.
Yeah.
That's why I like to put it in a glass of ice.
Yeah.
And I like the end of it just fine.
Yeah.
Like when it's
Sure.
half water, half whiskey, I'm totally fine. Like people got to open up their mind. Too many people, the first time that they taste whiskey, they're like, oh, and then they get handed stuff like Jack Daniels, which is super harsh as far as I'm concerned. They get turned off on it right away. Like, give Frankfort Spirits a try because this stuff tastes great. It's a good time.
That's one thing during our tours. We say, we don't tell people, we're not whiskey snobs or anything. We just say there's one wrong way to drink whiskey, and that's fast.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So we drink it nice and slow. Even when buddies of mine still want to do a shot, I'm like, pour me a shot, that's fine. But I'm not going to shoot it. I'm just going to sip on it a little bit.
Exactly.
It might take me, a few minutes, take a few sips of it, but that's how I enjoy it.
Yeah, as Chris said, we're not snobs. I mean, if you like to pour Kool-Aid in with your whiskey and that's the way you like to drink it, God bless you. Kool-Aid it up.
Really? You guys get better people than me. I'm a snob.
Raise your spirits
on this one. So this is our rye. Pretty much all rye except for just a little bit of barley that we put into the mash bill on this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. Wow.
But just by adding a little bit of water, now you could just actually get the flavor. So the same thing like I like to drink my bourbon or most of my spirits. Phil and I have a hobby during the week. It's called making ice cubes. For Sundays,
It's true.
So we make our ice cubes. Nice balls of ice we offer, like when we like to enjoy an old fashioned or something. I just like mine to sit in ice, chills down, and then you get pretty well replicated of what we're doing here.
Right, and that's what I'd like to go over with people is what you guys are doing right now, like the little bit of water in there, how to actually drink whiskey, because it's great stuff. I mean, it really is. Like I said, I think people pass on it. They'd rather drink wine or something that's just a little less harsh. But if you can drink in moderation,
if you could gauge it. Yep.
Well, I can offer a tip for the viewers and the listeners on the podcast. And unlike think of the traditional wine tasting. And you're swirling around in a glass, and you get your nose down in that glass so you can smell it, right?
Yeah.
Don't do that with whiskeys or other spirits because they're high proof. All you're going to get is the alcohol. So what we recommend is get that spirit up to your top lip, and then breathe in with your nose.
Okay.
And that way, now you're getting the aromas without the alcohol.
And you keep your mouth open a little bit.
It helps you.
And
Helps
almost
you smell.
Circulate it.
The other thing then, what we're suggesting is you take your spirit and just put a little bit on your lips and your tongue. Now you're just getting flavors. You're not getting alcohol. Then you move on to just getting a little bit in your mouth, and so you can taste it without taking too much. And that way you're actually tasting it, the spirit, as opposed to doing a shot.
Sure. I tell you what, as a young guy, whenever I would see somebody with a glass with ice in it and they're just drinking it, I'm like, man, they must have really conditioned themselves
not to
do
drink
that.
fast.
Right, and but it also like to acquire that much of a taste for that, because my only experience with that was grabbing that bottle of Jack
Sure.
and chugging down some and being like,
right,
whoa.
It's almost because you lost a bet. Usually, sometimes that's
Sure.
why they had to shoot it.
Sure. Right. But I mean, after when you realize what they're actually doing, it is. For me, it's the nicest, most leisurely way to drink, rather than putting it down. And then also, like I said, the peeing thing with the beer is.
Finish that one up, and then I'm gonna pour you another one.
Yeah, well, Chris is pouring the next one. You want to do the high wheat bourbon, Chris?
I was thinking of, what do you want? The high wheat bourbon or the rum?
Go with the high wheat bourbon, then we'll end
Finish
the tasting on something that's
Since
brand new.
that is our latest, the rum. But yeah, so this for a bourbon guy. This is our, right now, this is I don't know, our flagship, that's why, because it's the bourbon. We love bourbons at Frankfort Spirits, and this is mine, right?
Yes, it is. So we sure do. And so what's really cool about this bourbon is all the grains in it were grown on the same farm in southern Illinois.
Nice.
So it's grown in Illinois, distilled in Illinois, barrel aged in Illinois, and soon to be consumed here in Illinois by us.
Right.
Now, one of the things about this bourbon is it's a high wheat bourbon. And so bourbons have to be at least 51% corn to be a bourbon. They have to be distilled here in the United States, not just Kentucky. They need to be barrel aged in a brand new barrel. Those are some of the general rules. Now, our bourbon is high wheat, which means it has a high
Now,
proportion.
when you say rules, is that like just like that's what makes a golden retriever is that it's got these characteristics?
So when we're saying rules, we're talking it's federal law.
Okay. Well, okay,
So
different,
federal
right.
law, bourbon is the truly an American spirit. You can only make bourbon in the United States. Now, we can't make scotch. You can only make scotch in Scotland. We can't make tequila. You can only make tequila in Mexico.
Really?
Now, we can make an all barley whiskey, which we have. Or we could make an
Okay, so an all barley whiskey with that
It's like a
that's-
Jameson's.
Okay, but that's
Yeah.
a Scotch then, right?
Yes.
Right, but
but we can't call it scotch.
So it's just like champagne. You can't make champagne.
It's exactly right. That's exactly right. So this our Emil Simple High Wheat Bourbon it's an American spirit, but all made all in Illinois, and it does have a high wheat content, which wheat tends to soften the spirit, so it rounds it out. It's not as perhaps harsh as some of the others. So that's what
We've
you're
got a
getting
high
about
corn, 51% corn, and then a high wheat content as well, and then we have a little bit
barley.
Then a
So
little
it's
barley in there.
55% corn, 40% wheat, and 5% barley.
So the corn's high in sugar, right? That's
Right.
sugar, and then
Yes.
the barley is what flavor or
Barley's also a softener, if you will.
Okay.
It kind of helps on the mellowness side of the spirit. If it was, you've had our all corn whiskey. That was the aged whiskey.
Yeah.
If you weren't going to age it for as long as we did, you'd want to add a lot of barley to soften it.
okay. And I mean, I've had some bourbon that was given to me like, hey, this is really good, and I'm like, it's okay, it's not great. So there were some times where I've definitely been turned off by bourbon.
Could be a couple things too. Could be first the mash bill. It could also be the type of barrel that they aged it in. So if there could be a really high charred oak barrel that could give you a really more of that charredness, maybe that you get turned off on. There's some other things that probably
Yeah, there's a lot of variables that go into any spirit, especially a bourbon. And just because, Chris and I might really love our bourbon, and because our taste buds are on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
You may try something that everyone else loves and say, you know what, that's just not for me. That doesn't make that an inferior bourbon. It's just not for your taste.
Yep.
Okay, so is there a different way? So the times I had bourbon, I went at it the same way I do whiskey. Ice in the glass, poured the bourbon in there, and I didn't feel the same about the one of the bourbons that I had I liked very much, but the other two that I had I was like, yeah, I'd rather stick with the whiskey that I had before.
Sure.
It's just I don't know, maybe acquired taste or whatever. But is there a different way that you would suggest to drink bourbon than
Nope.
whiskey?
No,
same.
you drink the bourbon the way you like to drink bourbon. For us,
I'm
we
not-
like it with the ice.
I like it with the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Some people really like it neat. People have a little bit different tolerance that the burn doesn't affect them, just like some people really like hot sauce and, they could do the hot sauce. I like hot sauce as well, but, I do like...
You like hot sauce?
I do. I enjoy a hot
Who
sauce.
knew
We've got
that?
to work on a hot sauce.
Oh my
whiskey.
gosh.
Maybe
Hey, real quick tidbit. The largest consumer of used bourbon barrels in the world, Tabasco hot sauce.
Really?
they
Yes,
age their capsicums. After they're ground into a powder, they put them into whiskey
Yeah, so you
barrels.
guys have to
Yes.
make it in a new barrel every
Yes,
time.
right.
But then you said you're using
We'll use
recycle it into this. But can you keep doing it with?
So you can reuse your barrel maybe one more time after the initial, and we'll do that for our an aged whiskey, or we'll repurpose it for our rye. After that, oftentimes we'll barter with local breweries, and they'll barrel age an imperial stout or something in it.
There you go. Okay.
So we try to we never got into this to be green, but we do recycle quite a bit.
Yeah, good.
Maybe
So
it's
this
more
is our-
financially. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's good for
Yeah, I was
the
gonna say financially, there's got to be a business end to it.
Yeah.
Does Tabasco and stuff buy your barrels or
Not
anything?
ours.
No.
We don't have enough that they won't even want us. Yeah.
No.
They probably throw away more barrels a day than we probably use
In a
them.
lifetime. So this is our Emo Stipple High Wheat Bourbon. Raise your spirits.
Raise
gentlemen.
your spirits, yeah.
Oh yeah, that. Jeez, that's good. So Laura Hartman was on the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that one
Yeah.
or not. And she's the bourbon. She's just all about bourbon. And she would flip over that. That's really good.
So our original, so we have, we had our original Emo Stipple bourbon when we first came out, and that was 75% corn. So it was like a high corn bourbon. We didn't call it that, but that wasn't it 75?
70% corn,
70%
25%
corn.
rye,
Yeah.
and then 5% barley.
So it had really nice corn. I mean, we had enough. We thought we would have enough in stock for 3 years. Right?
Sold out in 18 months.
Wow.
So this was our next creation. We thought we were going to have plenty of ramp-up time for this. So this is the bourbon that we have now. That original bourbon will be re-released. Right now it's 4.5 years old, and we're just waiting for it to mature.
Since we're on the topic of bourbons and how things have gotten released, May 4th, we're having a derby party. And the week before that, we'll probably do a little bit of a pre-release. We have a brand new double barrel bourbon.
Wow, this is like first time we've told the public that we're doing
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have let the cat out of the bag on that.
Hello.
But it'll be officially released Derby Day. We have a big derby party on May 4th, so everyone gets dressed up with their hats, and we televise the derby. We have Southern food and everything. It's a great time. It's our fifth time.
Yeah.
And more and more people. We have John Herder in Frankfort brings his granddaughter brings horses out. We've got live horses. Some people bring their old cars out. I mean, it's a blast. Just to get everybody dressed up, and the girls go crazy with the derby hats. We give away prizes for best dressed people.
Yeah.
It's just so much fun, and
Oh,
we're going to release our derby.
I don't know how you guys keep everybody under control with the fact that this stuff tastes so good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously growing up, did quite a bit of drinking. I mean, way too much at times. Like, seriously, don't know how I got home, from places. And hard liquor was definitely, not something that, it was like you lost a bet. It was, it was always, take a shot if you
Lost a pool game or whatever, yeah.
And then, we were knuckleheads too. When we were out shooting.
Well, you'd
pool and
raid
everything.
your dad's booze closet, and then, you gotta drink that. You lost the bet.
You never did that though, Chris.
No,
did you?
gosh, no.
Drinking the Johnny Walker Black Label and all that other
Yeah.
stuff. But and then we used to drink all that crap that was like Rumpelmints and just the hardcore schnapps and everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, this is nothing like that. I mean, people would be and probably
Silly
the
to
most
drink, yeah.
no, but the most difficult thing you guys have is getting people in the door to you, because once you get them in, this is
we're a
outstanding.
very well kept secret, unfortunately.
Our business model hasn't quite produced the marketing campaign that we'd like that we wished it had. So we talked about this early on. We could have a pretty label, we can have really great packaging, but no one's going to buy the product twice unless it's good.
Yeah.
And so we put as much effort not only into the packaging, but to make sure that the product is as good as we possibly can make. Now, what Chris is getting ready to pour now is our Los Brubotos rum. It's a barrel-aged rum.
Nice.
We did this 3 years ago, Bill.
I'm totally digging the labels too, man.
Thank you.
They're outstanding.
And as we sit around the table, there's a couple of us here that have some facial hair. Los Brubotos is Spanish for the bearded ones.
Okay.
And it was based on a baseball team out of Cuba that Fidel Castro played for. So Los Brubotos is a North American style rum. And what we mean by that is it's been produced much like a whiskey. It is not super sweet, it's not sugary, but it has the hint of sweetness from the molasses that it was distilled from.
Okay, and that again, you would put about 20% water in there,
Yeah.
in the glass before you hit the bourbon or the rum in
The
there.
rum. Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
just
cool.
because we're experimenting here, it'd be might get a little heavy if we started drinking all this stuff. Pretty.
No, I mean, but taste wise, I like.
You want to
it.
be able to taste
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
That is the key.
Right.
I mean, quite frankly, when you're sitting around it, like you said, if you're grilling or something like that, you want to be able to taste the cocktail that you're, or the spirit that you're drinking. So, yeah, there's no sin in adding a little bit of water ice.
Yeah, I tell you what, I like the effect of alcohol, but I drink it for what it tastes like. I mean, I don't, like I told you guys when we were talking before the podcast, I don't drink, Bud Light or Miller Lite. That's just like a watered down NASCAR Pops or whatever you want to call that stuff. Like if I'm gonna have a beer, it's a Guinness. It's something that I like a Sam Adams or something that's got some real good flavor to it. And like this, same thing, a glass of ice and this, I could drink this all day long. I'm gonna get a buzz off of it, but it's gonna be pleasurable to drink also.
Yeah, life's too short to drink bad booze.
Right.
But we also, when we're making our spirits, we're taking a very, very small cut of what gets distilled that goes into our bottle. That it's called the Heart's cut. And the reason why we do that is if we were to take either too much from the front or too much from the back, that part of the alcohol has chemical compounds that tend to give you headaches. And we like to drink what we make, and we don't like headaches. So we take a really, really small Heart's cut.
Okay, so wait, when you're saying you're taking a Heart's cut, is that what you're selling? Is just a Heart's cut?
Yes.
So you're getting rid of the headaches on both ends and just that's got to be a pretty good selling point.
So what we're putting in our bottle, forgive me for all the vegetarians that are listening today. Our Heart's cut's like the filet mignon. It is the center cut. It is as good as you could possibly get.
Sure.
Without taking out
the
stuff.
artichoke heart.
Or that, yes, the artichoke heart.
For the vegetarians out there, right?
All right, so now this is the Los Barbados rum. It is a molasses-based rum. The molasses has come from Louisiana, and we've distilled it and barrel-aged it here in Illinois.
So it's barrel aged in a
whiskey barrel.
whiskey barrel. So I kind of call it where rum meets whiskey.
Yeah.
So I was saying we did this 3 years ago, right? A month ago, it was just announced what we were doing is now called North American style rum. Now, we did it because we thought it would be cool.
And we had
thought
the
it'd
barrels.
be different.
Yeah.
And so let's do it. And now all of a sudden it has an official classification.
Yeah. So that other like minds were picking up on the same thing and doing so it's something you just kind of thought up to do,
right?
Like a direction where to go, and other people were thinking the exact same thing. Like this would be really good.
And in order thinking it now, but the fact of the matter is we're small, we're nimble, we can experiment. If we were a big distillery and we made 10,000 gallons of that stuff and it tasted like hogwash, what are you going to do with it?
Right,
so
sure.
We're a little bit more
enough.
agile like that. We'll do
Yeah.
one barrel sometimes so we can age it and see what it tastes like. It might take us 2 years, but we didn't do a whole rack house full of it. you know?
Right.
That's the fun stuff. And
This is really good too. This feels like it's got a little more heat though, a little warmer going down, which is good. I like that feeling for sure.
And it's rum. It's crazy. I mean, some like Jack King always says, we need to make a rum. We're doing a vodka. When are we going to come out with rum? So it was always one of those things that, we've got it in the barrel. Now we just have to wait. And now this was the latest one we've come out with. And it's
good.
We were
It's
happy.
really good.
And then to see oh, wow, it's a Northern American rum.
It's a thing now.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Right. I guess you wouldn't equate Northern America with rum to begin with, right? That's more of a
Caribbean,
South American thing.
Right. Sugar cane, that sort of a deal.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why we had inspiration, paying tribute to, Cuba, Fidel Castro with the bearded ones, so we have a little bit of a feel for it, but then we also pull in the American baseball to it, and so we have fun. Phil and I have sat around a lot thinking of different names of different spirits, or just brainstorming on what we do next. And
So how much do you guys like? How I'm sure you know, but how much currently are you selling? Like, how much spirits are you going through? Like, how is, like you're just selling it CD and me, and then people obviously can buy bottles of it and stuff like that, right?
That's right.
yeah, at our tour and tastings, that's when we, at the end of like a wine tasting or any brewery tour or something, it's like, yeah, we have it available. We picked up a model from Walt Disney, and we end up right in the gift shop at the very end. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
I'll
bottle.
tell you what, I want to buy a couple bottles from you and just leave them on my table for my podcast because, they'll be advertising for you the whole time, but I think that you'll slowly see them.
Dissipate.
we can
for
tell
sure,
which episodes. You won't have to number the episodes anymore. We can tell
Right,
just
right,
by the
those
level of the bottles.
Right. Because honestly, that's those are really cool looking labels. The labels are conversation pieces, and I don't know, look pretty good behind somebody's bar for sure.
Well, we put some thought into that
Absolutely.
as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
There's a lot of times that Phil and I would sit at the bar, and our vision might not be as good as it once was. It was like, can you read what that says?
Right.
No, I can't read that whiskey. How am I going to order that
Right.
whiskey?
Every single one of them. Yeah, look how big.
We say Emil Stimple.
Yeah,
You can
right,
see it from
right,
way
right,
back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, even after probably 6 or 7 drinks, I can still read that.
we do things from the point where everything from the shape of the bottle and how it felt in the hand and the billboard effect that bottle was able to give us every step of the way. It's not by mistake. We have fallen into a couple good mistakes and maybe a couple bad ones, but most of them are things that we've thought about.
Yeah.
Everything from the logo design and visiting. I'd go visit the Historical Society in downtown Frankfort and talk about his history. And we have one.
Yeah, they definitely look Frankfurt-y.
Thank you. Yeah.
So those bottles, yes, you can get them on Sundays during our tours, or you can swing by on Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah, it's
So
CDME there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And strongly, I drink, but I'm not a big drinker anymore. And this is outstanding. It's really, really good. You guys should be proud of yourselves for what you've done, especially
We are proud,
coming
yeah.
from the different directions you came from to end up here. That's a good product.
Thanks.
How are you gonna compete with pot?
Oh well, yeah, right. Maybe
That's
we'll
gonna
have
be
to
legal in
have
Illinois here.
So
pretty
the
soon.
funny thing, it's funny that you mentioned that because we were just contacted by, was it CBD, the oils?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
We were just contacted by a producer of those oils wanting us to do a spirit based on the oil.
Now, yeah, okay, so that's really interesting because the CBD oil, there's no THC in that. That's just for like the
Help
advantages that you get from
Right.
the CBD oil.
Exactly.
And I mean, I know there's a debate whether it's medicine or not, and we've had a couple podcasts where we don't, no one's doing it on camera, but they're, sitting in the pen while they're walking.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
They got a card. They're all right. Totally legal. They got glaucoma or whatever they got going on. But
I caught the glaucoma.
Got the glaucoma now.
right.
Give me a
So,
pen.
but I mean, I think that's it's probably inevitable that's going to be legal. That'll be a competition for you guys, right? I mean, this is one buzz. That's another buzz.
Maybe.
Yeah, for us, I kind of look at it as slot machines versus horse racing. There's going to be some competition going forward, no doubt about it.
Combining it, that sounds like a pretty smart move, right? If you're doing this and you could add what does the CBD oil do to the?
That's a great question. Not quite sure. Now there are some things that go great together, like chocolate and peanut butter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know yet whether or not the CBD oil and
Right.
spirits
Well,
are
it
going to work
enhanced
out.
the flavor of it,
Right.
There'll
Well,
be
I mean,
peop-
I don't know what they do with the THC because the CBD oil, that's just the oil. There's no getting high with that. But then the THC, I don't know. Like I've had an edible and I've had the brownies. That's not taste. You could never put that anywhere near this. That's not taste terrible. You pretty much consume that for the high, but the flavor's awful. I mean, I know they put it in chocolate and stuff like that, but chocolate's maybe got a little more. I don't know. Something
covers up more the
cover
flavor,
up,
or
right.
Yeah,
it
I have
works
no
better with
idea
the-
where this is going in the future.
We haven't
I don't.
explored it. Yeah, right. We don't know.
No, I mean, but
But we've been approached.
Yeah, and can't beat them, join them, like sort of deal. You could maybe get some of that market if there was a way to combine this. I know when I combined drinking and pot when I was a kid, all I did was go to sleep. So it was, no good for me. I was never a guy that was really into pot just because I found myself sleeping at 10 o'clock at night every night. And the girls didn't dig the sleeping guy on the couch.
Look at that cute guy sleeping in the corner.
Let's call our R&D folks. We're out of that CBD oil stuff. We don't want anybody falling asleep.
Right.
We want you awake and enjoying things.
Right.
Well,
I just curious. That was a question I thought up earlier today. I'm like, with pot on the horizon.
yeah, and I mean, just like with all the breweries that are around, and we have our spirits. I mean, people pick their poisons. I guess it's like
For
whatever
sure.
they
And
like.
If you're a beer drinker, I mean, I can highly recommend these spirits for sure. But to grow up a little bit and try getting into whiskeys and bourbons and stuff like that, I find it to be a much better time. Less time in the bathroom. You feel less bloated.
Yeah.
All the other stuff. I mean, I definitely, I go out for some beers in the afternoon, some tacos in town here, and that's fine. But if I was going to drink for an evening, I always prefer
Do a little
spirits.
sipping, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that you talk about enjoying a Guinness. Phil lately has been on a kick where he likes to do a cocktail, but then use beer in a cocktail.
Okay.
Something that nobody's really done late. I don't know how you came up with this, but we're kind of came up with some ideas for Game of Thrones, just sample cocktails ideas. And one of because of the Game of Thrones is kicking off. But we're doing a Los Barbudos rum where it also has like a creme de coco, Guinness beer, and a Fernet Branca, which has got like a fall kind of a real nice cinnamon,
Earthy
fall type.
Yeah.
And just the combination of putting a rum with a beer with a couple accent spirits on there, it's been kind of fun to try the way that you could push these cocktails opposed to, we enjoy them. I'm a purist. I drink black coffee and I like my bourbon with an ice cube. But when you start...
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, I'm blown away by how good this is just drinking it straight. I can't imagine how much better a mixed drink, like an old-fashioned or...
Yeah, or old-fashions are out of this world.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much better that is. And then the vodka in anything. I mean, vodka obviously is mixed with tons of stuff.
Well, that's when we call it scary smooth. When people start drinking this,
right.
and especially you have a cranberry juice and you put that they don't taste it. I'm like, be careful with that.
You do need to be responsible because it is 87 proof. It's nearly 10% higher proof than most vodkas.
Right.
And which is surprising that it's that smooth, even though the proof is higher.
Oh, I'll tell you what, with with people I know, that would be gone. I mean, it's a good thing
that's
to put
fine.
in a big bottle because wow.
The good news is that we'll make more.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, that's a really good.
But even my wife, she's getting into the point where she just says, real health benefits of the rind of a lemon. Just do great off a little. You could pour that with the ice cube, a little rind of lemon on there, and you've got a cocktail.
Yeah, right. No, the citrus stuff. I mean, if I have a glass of water, I like to squeeze just a little bit of lemon in there. It's supposed to have great health values as far as that goes. Not that we're being, I don't know if I drink for health value.
Right,
but,
right. We can't attribute any health.
None whatsoever.
No health.
No.
But
so, Bill, do you look good in a bow tie? Will we see you at Derby Day?
I'd like to go up there for Derby Day, but there's no chance I'm wearing a bow tie. I mean, that's way too Tucker Carlson. I can't work that.
Well, you could wear a blue one.
Yeah, right. No, I'm definitely, I'm not really a Democrat either, but I could work the anything but the Tucker Carlson stuff. No, so Derby Day, and I actually want to talk about a little bit more about the booze themselves because for someone that's at home, and I'm still a little flabbergasted. I'm usually not speechless, but the bourbon, that's the best bourbon I've ever had. Oh. I mean, and I was given some bourbon by people who drink bourbon, and I got to get Laura Hartman to try this bourbon because it's knock your socks off. But so Derby Day, like you said, you have all the people out, the whole thing there.
Oh yeah.
Is it? And then you do your tours and stuff on Sundays. So besides Derby Day, is there any other big events that you guys do? I mean, are you selling most of your spirits through CDME just as?
We sell through our distillery for the most part. We've been on the shelves of Mariano's and
nice.
and the Binnies and a few things like that.
How about internet? Like, or can people
Can't
find
do
it?
any internet sales.
No,
Yeah.
why is that?
Illinois law.
Oh, is that right? Oh, wow, that's such a.
So that's
Well,
where
yeah, you
Phil and
lobbyist on that,
Phil
huh?
and I have, within all of the Illinois craft spirits, they were in Springfield 2 weeks ago. I mean, because we're the little guys, we don't have the ability to self-distribute. So that's one of those things that we would like as craft distillers that produce a certain gallonage, a low gallonage, to be able to at least self-distribute some of our spirits.
And we call that parity because currently small wineries and small breweries can self-distribute. Only small distilleries are not allowed to. So we're just looking for parity in the law.
It's the alcohol level that they've decided is the proof is what they've
what they this is we're what's called a 3-tier distribution state, and it's been in law since Prohibition, and so it's just been a carryover since then. And like I said, we're the 15th distillery, so there hasn't been a whole lot of push to change it. Now that craft and small batch distilleries are becoming more popular, it's like, hey, the big distributors don't want to touch us because we're so small. We can't get into stores or restaurants because the distributors won't touch us. So give us an opportunity up to a certain gallonage to self-distribute. Once our brand catches on, then the big guys will want us.
Yeah,
and then we'll work with them to get mass distributed.
I think that there's a misconception that this is like a more irresponsible way to drink, and I think it's a more responsible way to drink. Like I said, I would pour myself that one glass, and tall glass filled with ice, with the whiskey in there, and that would be my cocktail for the entire day. Pretty much, I was still responsible.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't consuming all.
Well, there's so many times that I don't even have to go back, especially like you say, you fill it with ice. You could suck on those ice cubes for a long time. That even just the ice melts in it, you still get the flavor of it. It's wonderful.
Right,
What are you thinking, Phil? A little bit more?
Well, I mean,
we've got a few
we're
bottles
like
in
round
front of
two.
us.
I don't know. Is this a 2-hour podcast or what are we doing?
It's as long as you guys like. I would sure like to go for round 2 on all of that. It was outstanding. Yeah, no,
You're too kind, Bill.
Right. No, I'm actually not very kind.
He's an ass.
I'm terrible. I'm argumentative, pain in the ass most of the time. I mean, I can't even be a guy to order a pizza with because I'm not eating that.
Yeah.
So not only are spirits good, they're miracles.
Yeah.
Look at it.
We
We've
softened
made Bill
him up.
happy.
Yes.
Right. No,
He hasn't smiled this much in 20 years. This guy.
I wouldn't bullshit anyone. And I'm not trying to make alcoholics out of anybody, but this is it's really good stuff. I mean, like I said, I don't, I got all kinds of things I've tried that I was like, it's not quite my thing.
Thank
But that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, we try hard at it. So
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I mean, I want to see. This is a really good product. I want to see it grow. How else do you plan to get it out there to the general public? I mean, besides.
Well, we do a fair amount of advertising. We do a lot of social media just to kind of do some of that grassroots advertising. Even the papers still are very expensive. So grassroots through social, Groupon type situations. We've collected a lot of emails over the years with our guests. So we try to bank on repeat customers as well. But it does present a challenge to get people out, especially on a Sunday afternoon sometimes when people just want to sit home and maybe cook a dinner. But
I think I've been on the email list for like 2 years, and I'm like, I gotta get up there.
We were just saying that on the way over here today.
Gotta get up.
He's been on the email for 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
This guy.
And I think I've just picked it up off social media. Has got to be good. That's a really great way to advertise. I would think, but I wouldn't. The best thing would be someone that's stocking their liquor cabinet with the full bottle, right? Versus a guy that's buying a couple drinks at the bar.
Sure. I mean, we do offer sample size cocktails at the distillery. You're more than welcome to come in just to have some cocktails. But yeah, if you want to put some craft spirits, some small batch spirits in your liquor cabinet, we're the people you can turn to.
Yeah. Good. Well, I mean, I don't know what else you guys got to add. I mean, my questions were, okay, so I think the only questions that I'd have are, I'm positive that people, and you guys did a really good job of explaining the difference between each one. And we did drink, every single one of them. Yeah, I'm not even a rum guy, and the rum was outstanding too. I mean, I hate to be like acting like I'm raving over the whole thing, but it's
kind of funny. I mean, you're not the only one. I mean, when people come into our distillery, they don't know what they're walking into really, and they go through a tour and tasting and hear about the history of how we've actually done this, and they taste the spirits. If people weren't happy at the end, I wouldn't want to go back to work. People are so happy and like our cheerleaders at the end. Maybe they've had a couple, maybe they have a smile on their face like you do but no, they really are like, wow, I wish, how do you...
good buzz on or anything yet. No, I mean, we didn't drink that much. I mean, I'm certainly not, confused.
We're not slurring or anything.
No.
Like that.
Now, we did the sample size pours, but our customers are our best cheerleaders. They are our brand ambassadors. They'll tell their family and friends, and that's what gets people in the door.
Right.
And so that's a lot less expensive than radio ads and newspaper ads and the like.
Oh, I mean, I love this map too, boy. I mean, you guys are the furthest south one in that cluster.
Yep.
There, as far as it goes, and there is. I mean, you got to get almost all the way to St. Louis before you're hitting another one down there.
Yeah.
Boy, I mean,
and we get pull. I mean, we get pull from people from Chicago, Homer, Bourbonnais, Homewood. People drive a while to get to us.
Wilmington.
Morris, Braidwood, all that.
Now, what about just like, do you guys send somebody out, a sales guy, to every single bar and everything else, trying to get your stuff on their shelves?
The answer to that is no, not at this point. If the legislation that our association is sponsored gets approved, and we have the ability to self-distribute, we will be like the Red Army when it comes to invading high-end restaurants, bars, and the like.
Sure.
We'll be all over the place. But right now, having to go through a distributor, it just has been very difficult for us. But we're not complaining. We're selling a fair amount right there at the distillery, and people keep coming back for it.
And can we talk about what the cost is?
Sure,
what
you
are
can.
we talking about for, what's the size?
We're pretty easy on the pricing. Our pricing ranges from $29 to $39, $29.95 to $39.95, depending on the spirit. The one difference is the vodka. The vodka is at $32.99.
Yep, that's right.
Right. The aged whiskey we have in both sizes, both the 375s and the larger bottle, the 750s. Those are at $29.95 to $39.95. The bourbon, which is in a small bottle, is $39.95. The Los Barbados rum is $29.95. And the Emil Stemple big bottle of the rye whiskey is $39.95.
So $30-$40 for a bottle. And I mean, if you were trying to equate that to, a beer drinker, I mean, how many drinks are in the big bottle of vodka?
So you're going to get about, if you were doing shots, you're going to get about 17 shots out of the large bottle.
For me, that's how I gauge. Like if I put 5 shots of whiskey in a glass, then I know I had 5 drinks, sort of thing. Like,
right.
Yeah. Because everyone's worried about where they're going to drive or something like that.
Sure.
So you 5 hours and then I can get in the car. So how many again?
So just so you know, so the 375 milliliter is essentially a 12 ounce. Okay. And the 750s are 24 ounces.
24 ounces. Okay.
And so depending on how tall of a shot that you pour, you're getting from 17 to 19 shots in the tall bottle.
Right.
And about half of that in the small bottle.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, price wise, that's not even that bad because you're definitely.
And it's all craft, not mass produced. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
The no headache part is a huge bonus too. I mean, there's
one caveat to that, Bill, on the no headache. if you drink too much, no matter what it is,
Yeah, right.
Robitussin,
Right. I'll tell you what though,
Diet Coke, it doesn't matter. You're
Right.
gonna get a headache.
I have gone out and had 4 or 5 shitty beers off of a keg.
Yeah.
And had a headache the next
dirty
day.
lines,
Worse.
all
Just
that.
4 or 5
Yeah.
beers, and I'm like, I had 4 or 5 beers in like a 5-hour period. I had never even copped a real good buzz, and I don't feel good the next day at all. So I mean, if that's not going to happen, then that's fine.
Yeah. So again, for us, it's quality, not quantity.
Yeah, an affordable luxury.
Yeah,
Yes.
No, absolutely. I mean, and enjoyable too, guys. Really good. So, from what I know, it's an age-old science, right? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
people have been fermenting since before Christ, and then you guys just, everything is. So everything in this is like. Is there like FDA regulations and stuff like that because you're consuming it?
So we are regulated by the federal government and the state as well as the county. So there's county health laws that we're required to pass. The federal government regulates us primarily for taxes.
They want their money.
Yeah, that's how right.
They want their revenue. So that's the first and foremost. Capitalism regulates us on quality. If our quality wasn't good, people
It's
wouldn't
not
buy
going
it.
to move.
Sure. Now, if anybody doesn't know where CD&Me is, it's right south of Frankfort on Route 45. And then what's the times on Sundays for the tours?
We host our tours at noon, 1:30, and 3. And our website's pretty easy. It's frankfortspirits.com. You could register right online for a tour. They're $10 a head to do about 45-minute tour and tasting. So those are available. You can see what our availability is. April, I think, the only day that we're not open is Easter Sunday.
Right.
So,
Yep. And so you get a lot of current information on our website, but even more current information on our Facebook page.
Facebook, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So if anybody stops in there and you saw it on the podcast, say something that you saw on the
come
podcast.
like us on Facebook.
Yeah, like them on Facebook. I mean, I wasn't. I'm not a paid spokesman. It was outstanding. I mean, it was really, really good stuff. Well, good guys. I think you can wrap it up, and hopefully you get some more. You have some happy people if they come through the door. That's for sure. I think your biggest hurdle is getting them through the door.
Well, thanks, Bill.
It is.
Speaking of hurdles and horses, come on out for our Derby Day event. You'll see Bill in a bow tie. He promised.
Yeah, May the
Right,
4th be
okay,
with you.
What date is that again?
May 4th.
May 4th. Okay, May 4th.
So that you could dress up as Han Solo. It's May 4th.
May 4th to be with you.
May the 4th be with
We
you.
could
Right.
have Star Wars versus Derby Day. I don't
Cool.
care.
Cinco de Mayo's the next day, so if you want to wear a sombrero instead of a straw hat, you can do that too.
Good guys. Good
Cool.
guys.
Thanks,
I liked
Bill.
it, man. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. And as always, check out my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe, and check out my podcast on iTunes and Google Play. Thanks.
Raise your spirits.
Nice.
Yeah.